who did he serve by not making a vote? Who does Manchin serve in the midst of coal country when he votes against labor a lot of the time?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
It's anti-democracy to force y'all to work under a contract that you voted against. And, here we're having the Democratic Party, it's all democracies on the ballot. Democracies on the ballot. We're the party of democracy. We're the party, they're hammering us with this messages, which is not, is not unreasonable, because obviously the Republican Party has really given up the idea of, majoritarian rule. And we understand that, and that's, the messaging is not bad in and of itself. But how do you message that and then directly go against the will of these rail workers?
Well, if you look at the vote count, in general, the Democrats lean far more in favor of us getting those sick days than the Republicans. A couple of Republicans jumped on board, but it seemed like that was grandstanding or maybe even pandering for votes.
Right.
But so I mean,
well, we saw John
Cornyn.
We saw John Cornyn come in and say that he was going to do it, and then I guess he got a call from one of y'all's bosses and decided not to. I don't know.
It's a wonderful thing. I mean, there is some influence there, but that is because I don't know the exact number, but do we move, if it comes to move up to 70% of all freight, parts of all freight that moves in the country ships by rail, that's a big footprint. And, solidarity, cross-craft solidarity is our key. And we really don't have that a whole lot in my career. A little better now. And I believe Railroad Workers United, railroadworkersunited.org, helped me breathe new life into cross-craft solidarity. I was at the National Labor College, the George Meany Center in D.C. for hazmat derailment training, train the trainer and teach police departments and fire departments to move people away from, how to read MSDS sheets and that kind of stuff. That's where I really got my first bite of cross-craft solidarity. But Railroad Workers United has really stepped up, and it's important that we work together, because rail labor is there's a great divide in much of rail labor.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and so you mentioned that the split between the Republicans and Democrats, and I do think and I think it's important to understand that, and to understand that it's not like there aren't differences, but how do you think it is that unions ought to relate to Democrats in light of this, but also, I mean, frankly, in light of the last 40 years of, Democrats' relationship with labor? It's not like this is the first time that we've been screwed over by Democrats, and yet we still continue, hundreds of millions of dollars from working people, from our PACs, in which I do want to ensure that I stress every time I talk about union political contributions. I do want to make sure that people understand that it's not coming from dues, it's coming from PAC dollars, which union members voluntarily contribute to on top of their dues, and so it's union members understand that that's what the money is going to, generally speaking, but still, it is still
Amen, brother.
Yeah, and that's something that I do try to be very careful of, because there are a lot of folks that say, union dues money, you have to pay for politics if you join a union, and that's not true. And we want to do a little bit of a little bit of myth busting, but it is still our money, even though we voluntarily contribute to our PACs and stuff. Is it worth looking at changing strategy? And I mentioned this to you this morning. Warnock won in Georgia. I'm glad he won in Georgia. Very happy he won in Georgia. I would have voted for him if I was in Georgia. But also, it felt a little bit weird seeing the Machinists Union, for example, who's involved in this rail dispute, talking about how many doors their members are knocking for working class champion, Raphael Warnock, and how much of their PAC money presumably went to, sending out mailers and advertisements and stuff like that. And it felt weird, because he's not been on the forefront of this issue. He didn't even make the time to go vote. He was at home campaigning. He didn't even vote.
He didn't vote. He didn't vote. And I was all for him. I made calls for him too. And he didn't vote. And you're like so frustrated with that kind of public servant, quote unquote, that who did he serve by not making a vote? Who does Manchin serve in the midst of coal country when he's declared a Democrat, but he votes against labor a lot of the time? It's very frustrating. I mean, I believe that Citizens United and the McCutcheon Supreme Court decisions have corrupted our republic, and we've turned to politicians serving their campaign financiers and letting lobbyists write the laws. What the hell is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an oligarchy in so many ways. I think
Amen.
we've heard people warn about it. You know, people warn it about it, but we're living in it. We are already experiencing it. I mean, in case the metaphors and the connections to the Gilded Age couldn't be clearer enough, we're talking about a railroad labor dispute to close 2022.
Right.
I mean, that seems really appropriate considering the Gilded Age level of inequality and extreme greed and corruption that we're experiencing in this country. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox and jump in there.
No, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, I tell guys all the time, because I used to be a bit greedy and work all the overtime I could when I was on a backhoe on the track work. And I had a couple good years of big overtime, but I never let that get in the way of raising my family. And I tell people all the time, you know, we work to live, not live to work. And you've got to keep that in mind. And you should be rewarded for hard work. And it seems like the working class has been shit on for a couple generations. It's like, come on, people, stick together. Solidarity is the key to our success.
And so what do you think about that? About, you know, what should unions be looking at changing our strategy with respect to Democrats and how we operate in elections?
I think it should go on a political candidate one by one scenario. I mean, Senator Rob Portman in Ohio, who is retiring, unfortunately, because JD Vance got that seat, but Senator Portman wrote the REEF Act, and that was the act to eliminate the sequester of railroad retirement, sick pay, and unemployment. Now, it got rolled into the pandemic, but anything in the pandemic bills is eliminated once the pandemic is declared over. So Portman was a great ally for rail labor in that, and I found myself working with both Republicans and Democrats in Ohio because I believe they understand serving the working class, serving their constituents. But boy, Ohio is awfully red, and it's very depressing for me.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.